Last night, for the first time in American history, we all collectively laid our eyes on a mugshot of a former president. Donald Trump was officially arrested at Fulton County Jail in Georgia. Unlike with the other 900 indictments, this time they decided to take and publish his mugshot. Now, there was, of course, no legitimate reason to take a mugshot of a former president. The whole purpose of a mugshot is to provide law enforcement with photographic documentation of the suspect so that they know what he looks like. And it makes sense that police, the jail needs to know that. But Donald Trump happens to be the most recognizable and famous person in the world, possibly in the history of the world, arguably. When he shows up for trial, they aren't going to, have to refer back to his mugshot to make sure it's really him. There isn't going to be anyone saying, wait, is that Donald Trump? It's hard to tell. Pull up his mugshot. So why did they take this step? What was the point? The point, of course, was pure humiliation and vengeance. It was also to give the DA, Fani Willis, a political trophy to put on her wall. It's something that she wants to use when she inevitably runs for Senate or governor in a few years, which, of course, we all know she's going to do, and that's a big part of the reason why all this is happening right now. Of course, it all backfired, as it was always destined to. The mugshot instantly became an iconic image, and in all the ways that the left doesn't want it to be an iconic image, and it had exactly the effect that any half-conscious political observer knew it would have, which is rallying the base around Trump. Trump is now fundraising off of the image, and smartly so, and will likely raise many millions of dollars just from the mugshot alone. He already has raised millions. In fact, we could say that if Donald Trump does manage to get elected to the presidency again, Fani Willis will be largely responsible for it. She is the most effective campaign manager Trump has ever had, even if unintentionally. But even if this all obviously works to Trump's advantage, that doesn't make it any less outrageous or infuriating. Nor should we be distracted from the lessons that this moment is trying to teach us. And the most obvious one is that the left they are beyond caring about even the pretense of legitimacy, something they used to pretend to care deeply about. In fact, through this whole ordeal, they're not even acting like they've stopped some grave threat to democracy because they know they've done the exact opposite of that. They are just wielding raw political power for the sole lawless purpose of incarcerating someone who stands a very real chance of winning the presidential election in a little over a year. And that's all this is. And they're not even pretending otherwise now. In fact, many on the left don't want Trump incarcerated. They want him killed. They want him dead. This happened last night. Watch.
Just a few minutes ago, Donald Trump, the disgraced ex-president, the frontrunner for the Republican nominee for president, 4 times indicted, departed his golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey. He's en route to Fulton County, Georgia, via Newark Airport, we believe. He will surrender himself for processing at an overcrowded jail with a reputation for violence and neglect. A jail that is accustomed to holding defendants facing charges up to and including violent crimes, where stabbings are frequent. Actually, 3 people have lost their lives over the last month. That jail is where the disgraced ex-president of these United States is heading right now.
She can't contain her glee. She really can't. She's so excited. She's openly laughing about people getting shanked in jail as she fantasizes about maybe that will happen to the former president. We've played a lot of demented clips on this show over the years. That one is way up there. Not long ago, Nicole Wallace was running comms for the White House during the Iraq War, and back then she had to pretend to care about the deaths of innocent people at the hands of establishment Washington. Until that happens, these people will do everything they can to silence Donald Trump. MSNBC and CNN, after obsessively covering Trump's trip to Georgia all day, made a point of cutting away from his remarks when he was leaving yesterday. Watch.
Regular people's lives are destroyed just by the charge. Just by the charge. Just the mere fact. Oh, here we go.
Keep going, Ben. Okay. So we're just going to be monitoring his remarks and bring them to you if they're
I'm just saying,
newsworthy.
You can begin to understand how some people, they don't have a lot of exposure to the system. Other people, because of the zip code they live in and the circumstances of life, they're exposed to it a lot.
Those lights that are there, which was not the sort of thing that you usually see on an airport tarmac. We did think that this was a possibility tonight. We didn't know for sure that it was going to happen, but it looks like Trump may decide to make public remarks before he gets back on his big private plane and flies back to New Jersey. If he does that, we're not going to take those remarks live, but we will cover them for their newsworthiness. As we've said in the past, there is a cost to us as a news organization of knowingly broadcasting untrue things. And given his previous remarks on the subject that we are almost sure he will speak on, we will not carry those remarks live. And you can be mad at us about it. We can take it. We're big. But we'll cover it for newsworthiness, and we'll turn it around and let you know what he says after he has made those remarks.
You know, later on, they say in that clip that they'll get sued if they air the remarks of the former president after his indictment. And if that was, in fact, remotely accurate, then any self-respecting journalist would air the remarks anyway. They'd fight any consequence for it in court. If the First Amendment protects anything, it's airing the words of a former president at a time like this. But MSNBC's statement isn't true, of course. It's a dumb jab at Fox News over the Dominion lawsuit, and it protects their viewers from hearing about the substance in these indictments or lack thereof. And that's why they do it. Here's what they're not telling viewers at MSNBC. Speaking of newsworthy things. The Fulton County DA, Fani Willis, has indicted Donald Trump along with 18 co-defendants for the following crimes: offering legal advice to the president, tweeting things that Fani Willis doesn't like, and in one particularly egregious case, getting someone's phone number. Quoting from the indictment, quote, "On or about the 21st day of November 2020, Mark Randall Meadows sent a text message to United States Representative Scott Perry from Pennsylvania and stated, 'Can you send me the number for the Speaker and Leader of PA Legislature? POTUS wants to chat with them.' This was an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy." Now think about what a remarkable paragraph that is. Mark Meadows, in his capacity as Chief of Staff to Donald Trump, was seeking to obtain the phone number of some politicians in Pennsylvania. He asked for a phone number. And because the reason for that request was investigating potential voter fraud, Fani Willis says Mark Meadows needs to go to prison. They're going to send him to prison for asking for a phone number, along with more than a dozen other Trump advisors. One of those advisors is John Eastman. What's his offense? Well, he advanced the legal theory that alternative slates of electors could be seated if election fraud was found. And that's apparently criminal now, which is interesting because it wasn't illegal in 1960 when JFK's electors from Hawaii met secretly and submitted their own certificates to Washington saying that he had won the state. As Politico reported, quote, "The Hawaii Democrats use virtually the same language that Trump electors in 5 states used in their effort to upend the 2020 race," quote unquote. Ultimately, Kennedy's electors turned out to be the legitimate ones after a recall determined Kennedy had won the state. Now, anyone looking at that episode of 1960 would say it's a good thing that alternative electors can be sent to Washington in the case of a recount that actually changes the result of the election. But now that's criminal, apparently. It's a RICO violation, supposedly. John Eastman and several other lawyers are now facing several years in prison because they did exactly what JFK's electors did and were vindicated for doing in 1960. David Schaefer, who was one of Trump's alternate electors from Georgia, has also been indicted. Ray Smith is facing jail time too. And what was his offense? Well, per Axios, quote, he, quote, "gathered witnesses to testify in hearings before Georgia lawmakers in December 2020 about alleged problems with the state's election." That's not allowed anymore. I mean, they're just like looking into it to see if something happened. They're trying to investigate. And that's a crime somehow. Also a crime is apparently tweeting about hearings while they're happening. Quoting from the indictment, quote, "On or about the 3rd day of December 2020, Donald John Trump caused to be tweeted from the Twitter account @RealDonaldTrump, quote, Georgia hearings now on OANN. Amazing. This was an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy." So for the crime of tweeting about a hearing about election fraud and related offenses, Fani Willis wants to send Trump and 18 of his associates to prison. For tweeting and just saying that this hearing's on right now. It's amazing. That's a crime. That's a felony. Before giving our dog rough greens, he was so sad and lazy, and now he actually enjoys his squeaky toys and playing fetch with his Frisbee. Our pup's days are filled with laughter, exercise, and endless fun. Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, the founder of Rough Greens, is focused on improving the health of every dog in America. Little did I know before I got Rough Greens, dog food is dead food. Everybody knows that nutrition isn't brown, it's green. Let Rough Greens boost your dog's food back to life. Rough Greens is a supplement that contains all the necessary vitamins, minerals, probiotics, omega oils, digestive enzymes, and antioxidants that your dog needs. You don't have to go out and buy new dog food. You just sprinkle Rough Greens on their food every day. Dog owners everywhere are raving about Rough Greens. It supports healthy joints, improves bad breath, boosts energy levels, and so much more. We are what we eat, and that goes for dogs too. Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black is so confident Rough Greens will improve your dog's health. He's offering my listeners a free Jumpstart trial bag so your dog can try it. A free Jumpstart trial bag can be at your door in just a few business days. Go to roughgreens.com/Matt or call 844-ROUGH-700. That's RUFF greens.com/Matt or call 844-ROUGH-700 today. And not only does she want to send him to prison, she wants to do it very quickly. Willis just filed a request with the court for this trial to take place in just 2 months, beginning on October 23rd. So for this unprecedented criminal trial of 19 defendants, including a former president, based on a completely novel and insane legal theory, she wants the defense to have a total of 2 months to prepare. Is that constitutional? Well, no one in the DA's office seems to care. And it's at this point that it's fair to look into the Fulton County DA, Fani Willis, and see what she's all about. Because it's long been known that she's a Democrat and she's an opponent of Donald Trump. And in itself, that's not necessarily disqualifying. Everyone, even DAs, have a right to their own political opinions. But Fani Willis has gone far beyond that. Just a year ago, she hosted a fundraiser for a Democratic candidate running against one of the targets of her election investigation, was a state senator named Burt Jones. Jones was one of Trump's alternate electors. And here's how the judge responded when he found out about this fundraiser. Watch.
Using the title of your office and having on social media that you, as this political office holder, are holding a fundraiser for the opponent of someone that this political office is investigating. I don't know that it's an actual conflict, but I use that phrase, what were you thinking? Where the prosecutor thought I could prosecute the co-defendant of someone I defended. It's a what are you thinking moment. The optics are horrific. If you are trying to have the public believe that this is a nonpartisan, driven by the facts, and I'm not here to critique decisions, the decision was made, but if we are trying to maintain confidence that this investigation is pursuing facts in a nonpartisan sense, no matter who the district attorney is, we follow the evidence where it goes and ignore the fact that I hosted a fundraiser for the political opponent of someone I've just named a target.
So this is a judge that's not exactly using an iron fist here. Well, you know, it's probably not appropriate. I don't know. You're investigating someone and you go to a fundraiser, you host a fundraiser for the political opponent of a person that you're actively investigating. I'm not saying it's a conflict, but geez, you know, maybe you don't want to do that next time. So the judge is a coward, but the point is that this is a DA who has to be told by a judge not to host fundraisers for the political opponents of politicians she plans to prosecute. She's that dumb and corrupt. By the way, Jones ultimately was not indicted along with the other 19 defendants, probably because Fani Willis knew the judge would throw it out. She blew that prosecution. But if you look at Fani Willis' social media feeds, as Benny Johnson, a conservative commentator, did the other day, then you'll come to the conclusion that she's blown all 19 of these prosecutions. Willis's feed is littered with posts casting doubt on the legitimacy of the 2020 election before the vote total suddenly shifted against Trump. Quote, Georgia could determine who is our next president, she wrote on November 4th, 2020. A team of lawyers needs to watch them count every single vote. They can start in Fulton, where we are having water leaks. What ballots are they throwing out? Georgia, let's give an honest accounting, no stunts. Again, this is the DA now prosecuting Trump for questioning the legitimacy of the election in Georgia. And she was questioning its legitimacy. In 2018, Willis said that it was suspicious that local election commissioners hadn't approved a recount of some votes in Fulton County. Quote, you all better start paying attention to what's really going on. She also argued that the Secretary of State, quote, controls elections, adding, quote, I wonder if we yet realize that is an important role. She also posted a lot of BLM propaganda. Of course, she worships Kamala Harris. She owns a mug saying she's a proud Democrat. So we can conclude that Fani Willis is something of a politically motivated election denier. As always, the left is guilty of doing exactly what they accuse their opponents of doing. The obvious point is that Donald Trump's social media posts, if they're criminal, then so are Fani Willis's social media posts. If he can go to jail for tweeting stuff, questioning elections, then she should be in jail right beside him. Her prosecution of Donald Trump based on her posts is an overt act in furtherance of her conspiracy to keep Donald Trump out of the White House. Now, will Republicans indict Fani Willis? If Republicans retake the federal government, will they jail her for election interference? Well, you ask any conservative right now, and they'll tell you that that'll never happen. And they're probably right. We're seeing a vast difference in tactics right now, let's say, between the two major political parties. Conservatives would never dream of doing any of this. They would never dream of dragging, say, George Soros into court on some pretext, for the sole purpose of harassing him. Liberals, on the other hand, have no problem suing Elon Musk for not hiring enough refugees. They relish every opportunity to use state power to punish their opponents. Republicans, on the other hand, don't have the backbone for it. They don't have the backbone to play this kind of game, to fight fire with fire. They never have. They're not doing it now. And that just means that with each passing month, the left is getting more comfortable. They're getting more comfortable being the only ones who are fighting this way. First, they target grandmothers walking around the Capitol. Then they jail Douglas Mackey for some memes. Then they go after Donald Trump for his tweets and his quote-unquote classified documents. And now in Georgia, they're targeting not only Donald Trump, but more than a dozen of his advisors and associates. And this will continue until Trump and all of his associates are in jail or all their opponents are. After this latest indictment, it's time to stop pretending otherwise. If you'd like to see what else I have to say, you can access my full show by going to dailywire.com or by going to the Matt Walsh Show Twitter page. Hope to see you there. Godspeed.